this should be a game that they're keeping a clean sheet in, I think. How many they lose by. Elliot Anderson, I think he's going to be a huge player for England at this World Cup.
There's no bad team. There's no bad organized team in this tournament.
Hello and welcome to the Inside Channel. I'm Sam Matterface. I'm in Brooklyn today and across in Dallas. He's back in the saddle just about, I think. Alex Crook is there. Hello.
How are we doing? What have you come up with for us this morning, by the way? I must do better when I get to New York in a couple of days' time. It's going to be hard to top that.
Scotland struggling. Gakpo and Brobby going double for the Dutch. USA are going to be champions of the world, and the Curaçao goalkeeper leaves no room for error. This felt like the week the World Cup went bankrupt, didn't it?
Yeah, certainly that's the feeling that I'm getting over in Dallas. We've got an influx of Argentina fans because they play here on Monday afternoon UK time. But I was speaking to some Japanese supporters on my way to bed last night. They were absolutely made up with what their team have produced so far. A lot of Germany fans milling around, maybe not quite as convinced in their team, but this is what the World Cup is all about, isn't it? Fans from different nations coming together and just enjoying the spectacle. And the locals are getting into it as well, I've got to say.
Absolutely. By the way, I don't know if you've seen the Japanese fans, always brilliant at tidying up the stadium afterwards. When you bumped into them on your way to bed last night, did you think about asking them to come round to your flat and tidy that up? Because when I was there in Dallas a couple of days ago, it was an absolute hellhole. It looked like the remnants of men behaving badly.
Well, it's even worse now because we've been here pretty much 2 weeks and we've had no maid service. So, yeah, I actually should have.
You are allowed to tidy up yourself, you know. You don't need somebody else to do it for you.
I've been too busy, Sam, as you know, meeting all the the local socialites and checking out the sights and sounds. I've not had time to do manual work.
Oh dear. I'm pleased to see that your social life is much better than your tipping, but we'll get on to that a little bit later on. We've also got Brighton's head coach Fabian Herzler is on this show. Yes, a Premier League manager is coming on this show in the next few minutes. Stick with us, because what's brilliant about the chat with him is that he tells us about what it looks like as from a coach's point of view, you know, these teams that maybe have surprised everybody, some different tactical trends that are happening in the World Cup. Fabian Herzler, the German manager of Brighton, goes into it in detail. And he's been spending time with one of the other head coaches at this tournament in the last few weeks. The insight into that in particular is pretty impressive. OK, let's get into it. Scotland 0, Morocco 1. Can they still go through, I suppose, is the big question. You said they won't. What do you say now?
Well, I've just looked at the latest standings in terms of the best place, third place teams, and they're second at the moment, Scotland, but there's a lot of teams who are still to play their second match, including the likes of Portugal and Spain and Morocco, who you wouldn't necessarily expect to finish third in their group. So let's see how that pans out. But it wasn't a hammering against Morocco. They're on 0 goal difference now. You think they're going to lose to Brazil, so they're going to go into the minuses. But I guess it's a question of how many they lose by. There was a stage in that first half. We've got a stats group, and they hadn't had a shot up until about the 45th minute, I think it was. I don't think they had a shot into the second half. And I was tempted to reply cheekily, I think their next shot at a World Cup might be in 8 years' time. They were poor in that first half, better in the second, should have had a penalty, but yeah, still not overly enamoured with the way that Steve Clarke is going about this tournament.
70 seconds they were behind. I mean, they set up 5-4-1 as we told you they were going to. We said earlier when we were in West Palm Beach 2.5 weeks ago, we said this is what's going to happen with Scotland. They'll go 4-4-2 for their game against Haiti. They'll go 4-5-1 for their next 2 games against Morocco and Brazil. They'll try and shut the game down, which works brilliantly if you actually shut the game down and don't give away a goal after 70 seconds. It's the fastest goal of the World Cup so far, and it was a very, very impressive first few minutes from Morocco. But you're right, after that, they sort of tailed off a little bit, and they did manage to just sort of like hold them off and keep the tide at bay. Brahim Diaz, beautiful ball through into Saibari. Hanley steps up. The PSV man volleys it across gun. And before the Tartan Army even have taken their seats, they're 1-0 down and they're up against it. To be fair, I think they got into it late in the game. Might have been a penalty shout, not entirely sure about that, but I've got to be completely honest. I was overall very disappointed with Scotland. 82% is the chance that the athletics tracker has given them of getting through to the round of 32. And like I said to you beforehand, the Scotland fans actually will be happy with that. You know, getting through would be like a major thing. I wish they'd given it a bit more of a go, though, in that match against Morocco. Maybe they will do against Brazil. Brazil weren't great. I went to the game in Philadelphia, Brazil against Haiti. I didn't think they were brilliant. They were brilliant first half an hour, 45 minutes. But after that, they took their foot off the gas. They'll struggle when it comes up against a team that are more dynamic in midfield, because they've just played Casemiro in there, really. Bruno Guimaraes and Paqueta, they've just played as almost extra forward players. So I think they've got some work to do. Talk to me about the Dutch. What did you make of them yesterday? Imperious, I thought. Yeah,
superb. You know, against the Sweden side, who obviously started the tournament so emphatically. I think going forward, they've got weapons. Crescencio Somerville taking this World Cup by the scruff of the horns, albeit by coming off the bench in this case. But Cody Gakpo getting his goal will help his confidence. We mentioned at the start of the tournament, defensively, very solid, the Dutch. So yeah, that was an excellent win. I guess it exposes how bad Tunisia were in getting thrashed by Sweden in the first game, and we're 2 games in, 2 coaches in, and they're already in the plane home, Tunisia.
Yeah. Poor old Hervé Renard. He turns up for 1 game. They get battered again, and all of a sudden they're back home. Look, I think Brian Brobby was excellent. Physical presence up top. It was a big call to put him in instead of Somerville. Gakpo got a brace. You said you've got no chance of winning anything if Cody Gakpo is your main source of goals. He's once again showed you up, just like Scotland are going to show you up by qualifying. They were out of sight before we even got to the half-time whistle, and they're now on the longest unbeaten run in World Cup history. 14 games. They haven't lost since the 2010 final. Shootouts counted as draws, obviously, because that's what the stats guys do. And the previous record was Brazil's 13 from 1958 to 1966. So it just shows you how good this Netherlands team have been at tournaments. Koeman says it's a message to the rest of the tournament that they can be dangerous. How far can they go on the evidence you've seen?
Well, listen, I think making any kind of prediction about how far teams can go is dangerous until we see the draw, because those live trackers are changing mid-match, aren't they, as to who could place who in the round of 32. I think at one stage yesterday we were looking at Germany-France in the round of 32 before Germany rallied and won their game. But yeah, certainly I see the Dutch as a team who can certainly challenge up until the quarterfinals. Not sure they'll go further than that. I'll stand by my Cody Gakpo comments. I think against top-class opposition, they're going to need a little bit more at the top end of the pitch.
Okay, while the Dutch were filling their boots, my pick for the group stages, remember a long time ago I said to you Japan would win their group. There were outstanding odds to do so. I must admit, after watching the Netherlands rack up a load of goals, I started to panic and think, oh, that's not going to happen. But they did not let me down. They come roaring back overnight English time, scored 4 goals, a terrific performance. They beat Tunisia in Monterrey by 4-0. And listen, Tunisia are out, Haiti are out now. It leaves Group F pretty fascinating, because remember, that's on the path, isn't it, to play one of the big teams in the next round of the competition. So the runners-up and the first place, whoever finishes top is in a key position. Whoever finishes second is going to have a real problem. May end up playing Brazil. 2 sides absolutely flying, though. I wonder who's going to top that group. Germany not flying. They did against Curacao, but I thought they were pretty sticky against Ivory Coast. 1-0 down until Dennis Undav turned up. And I was texting you during this game, and I was saying, this guy should be starting. Dennis Undav, I don't know what else he does. I don't actually think he does anything else. But he finishes. He's a goal scorer. His record for German internationals is unbelievable. He's played 11 times for the German national team. He scored 9 goals. And those finishes yesterday, pure striker instinct.
Yeah, especially the second one in the circumstances. He knew it was going to be the last kick of the game. I've got to say, Ivory Coast had a massive opportunity. Seconds before that, Adingra, take the shot first time.
Yeah.
Far too long to get the shot away, and then Germany break and score at the other end. So I think they were really fortunate, Germany. I think the Ivorians were the better team over the course of the game. And I was obviously at the first game in Houston when they scored 7, but I still wasn't overwhelmed by their performance. And if you're asking me who's going to go further out, the Dutch who we watched yesterday or Germany, I would certainly say the Dutch look the more complete package. But he's making a case, isn't he, Undav, for getting a start in that final group game. I thought Kai Havertz laboured a little bit as that false number 9.
He certainly did. Talk to me about the United States of America. It's so important that hosts have a great tournament. All the hosts are through to the next stage of the competition, which is brilliant. But the United States of America performing so well in their matches has captured the imagination of this nation, which is, I think, really important for the tournament, but also important for football in this country.
Yeah, those chants of USA are getting louder, aren't they, by the day? I've been to a couple of watch parties, and certainly the US fans are invested in the tournament now and surprised. There wasn't much expectation amongst the hosts that Mauricio Pochettino's men would turn up and do this, but they've played free-flowing football. They've scored bags of goals in their first two games. They were quarter-finalists in 2002. I think if the draw pans out favourably for them in the first couple of knockout rounds, they could emulate that with home advantage and with those fans behind them.
Yeah, certainly that would be great. They're in the last 32. First time the US men have won back-to-back World Cup games with that victory over Australia since 1930. They did it without Pulisic as well. He's got a bit of a calf injury. They're managing that at the moment, and you can feel this country getting behind that team. We've had a few people get in touch with us over the last few weeks. One of them was Matt, the USA fan, and he was pretty, he wanted us to get a little bit more into the United States. I think we'll certainly do that as time goes on. And we don't think we'll go into a massive preview of their Turkey game because it's probably the only game at this moment in time that means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
The USA have already won their group and Turkey are already eliminated.
Turkey have been really poor, by the way, haven't they? I mean, we were talking about dark horses in our preview pod, and I went with Japan, luckily, because Turkey were in my thinking, but they've been one of the most disappointing sides. So have Ecuador as well. Some of those fancied sides have really just not turned up.
Yeah, I met a couple last night, an Indian guy and his Turkish wife, and he was ribbing her relentlessly. In fact, we asked her, was she able to go to the bar and have 60 shots and it have no effect? Because that seemingly is what happens if you're Turkish. Terrible. Honestly, I'm so disappointed in Turkey, and I think that there needs to be ramifications here because they've got talent, they've got good players, they've obviously got a lot of players from their league, but they've got players that are spread around the globe. I think they needed to perform better. They should have performed better.
Yeah.
With the talent they've got, they should have been able to, and I think they should be really disappointed in their performance here. Very big thank you, by the way, to Star Sports, our sponsors, the UK's leading independent bookmaker, the best price England on all of the markets. And if you want to back the boys over the course of this tournament, then they are the place to be. It's starsports.bet. You have to be 18 to place a bet. And if you want gambling advice, go to gambleaware.org. We have had a question from one of our viewers. In fact, we've had a few, but the main one is from Dean Howe, who says, are the Minnows' performances justifying FIFA's expansion to 48 teams?
I think they are. When you look at what Curacao did yesterday, and their heroic goalkeeper, we'll come on to that, but you look at Cape Verde against Spain as well, Saudi Arabia, probably not one of those minnow nations because they have been to the World Cup before, but that they've performed well to this point. So, yeah, I think when you're talking about Turkey going home and some of these so-called minnows still in with a puncher's chance of a place in the round of 32, you have to say it has been justified. And it's added a bit of intrigue, isn't it? These players and these nations that we wouldn't normally know too much about or get to see play.
Well, the other thing is with the Spain-Cape Verde situation, my uncle texted me and said to me, that's the best 0-0 draw I've ever seen. Yeah. And if you look back at the tactical sort of patterns that Cape Verde implemented, the way they shift across all in unison, the way they narrow off when necessary, spread out wide to deny the space on the flanks, then come back in to stop people getting in the pockets. It's such a brilliantly well choreographed bit of coaching.
Yeah,
I think it needs more praise. But Babista needs more praise for that. You know, I mean, I think it's gone under the radar a little bit. That's elite sort of game management from them, and I think that deserves a big round of applause. Curacao, listen, the goalkeeper was just fantastic, wasn't it? Eli Room, he's going to be a hero, just as Vizinha is in his country. By the way, what's also great for these guys, and I know it sounds a little bit trite to say it, but these guys who produces massive performances and get famous for 15 minutes, get all these Instagram followers. Okay, I know an Instagram follower isn't like worth anything or whatever, but it might be worth something to them. It might mean that they get a little bit of, I don't know, sponsorship, or it might mean that they get some endorsements or whatever. It might change their life. You never know. So look, I think it's great. I think it's spreading the message of football around the world. I think actually, even if you were a skeptic about the 48 teams, the performances of some of those nations have certainly justified their inclusion. And I think that's something that we're going to touch on with the Brighton manager, Fabian Herzler, who is going to join us in the next few seconds. I'm delighted to say we're joined by the Brighton manager and patriotic German, Fabian Herzler, is with us. Hello.
Hello, Sam. Hello, Alex. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, the Inside Channel. We're all at the World Cup. We're in different places across the United States of America and Canada and Mexico. Just start by telling me what your first impressions have been of how football, soccer has been embraced over this first week or so of the tournament in North America, because I know that you've been spending time here.
Yeah, for me, it's been absolutely fantastic. You can feel that football is growing rapidly here, and I follow the development from football here in United States and in Canada since a long time. The stadiums are full most of the time. The atmosphere has been brilliant. And the scale of the tournament, this is unlike anything we've seen before. So I like different cultures coming together. I like that the different cultures across the United States, around Canada, around Mexico, give the World Cup like a unique flavor, different flavor. And then you got the ads on from all the countries participating in the World Cup. So overall, for me, it's really nice to see it, really nice to be part of it, because I think when you are in the United States, when you're in Mexico, when you're in Canada and feel really the atmosphere and the environment, then it's something special. So I'm really delighted to be here and can follow it, to be part of a nice tournament.
I think there was a lot of scepticism about the fact so many teams were going to compete at this World Cup, so many smaller nations. Do you think that decision by FIFA has been vindicated with some of those performances? Obviously, Cape Verde against Spain being the one that really stands out.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was the last two days of the Brazilian national team, had some conversations with the coach, Angelotti, with his son, with the assistant coach. And the main topic was really that there's no bad team. There's no bad organized team in this tournament. So I think the difference is really tight. Every team has to play on its highest level. Every team has to reach the highest standards. Otherwise, they get in trouble, and it's proven already many times. So I think so far it's quite an attractive tournament. There are attractive games. Of course, not in every game can happen so many goals and can't be that attractive. But overall, I see really tight games, and I don't see boring games. And I think it comes back to the really tight qualities in between the teams.
As a coach, I'm sure you've been studying the tactical trends. Is there anything that's leapt out at you? And is there anything that we're going to be seeing copied in the Premier League next season?
So I think there are a lot of things you can see already in this tournament. Teams are becoming, in my opinion, quite flexible during the game. So especially like the water breaks, for me, I would name them more the momentum breaks. So during these momentum breaks, you can see a lot of changes regarding, not like substitutions, but changing regarding structure, changing regarding tactical approach. So for me, it is quite interesting to see what a 3-minute break can do with the game. And that would be interesting to see if you have these kind of momentum breaks also in normal Premier League games. Then on top of that, I see teams being really aggressive in counter-pressing. I don't see teams like so passive. My thoughts was a little bit regarding the weather, regarding different conditions here, that you see a lot of teams being in a low block and try to do a lot of transitions. But overall, I see active teams. I see teams very, very dynamic, very intense in the counter pressing, and I really like that. I see a lot of, and that's maybe an interesting thing, I see a lot of fullbacks joining a lot in possession. So more and more teams demand a lot from their fullback, especially in possession, joining the attack, attacking the box, being really flexible in possession. I think that's definitely an interesting playmaker role from the fullbacks. So when we look at England, also Morocco, Hakimi, how he defines the role, that's quite interesting. And on top of that, and I think that's just a continue of the trend also in the Premier League, set pieces stay and maintain game changer and match winner. So we have the long throw-ins, we have in general set pieces, corners. So the teams try to benefit it. The team tries to make profit out of it, and therefore I think these are the trends I see so far. So some new things, some things we already saw, but overall quite interesting.
What about any individual players that have caught your eye so far? Have you seen anyone and thought to yourself, I'd like to take him to Brighton this summer?
Yes, Inayari. I was impressed. I was impressed by him. I texted him afterwards because he didn't score that many goals for us this season. But what I have to say, he's training so hard on these kind of finishing. He's doing so many extra work after training session, and now you get like the rewards for that, and that's really nice to see. So I'm really happy for him. I'm really impressed by his first performance, and hopefully he can continue like this, and also all the other players from us.
I mean, technically, I suppose Brighton are very well represented, 8 players across 6 different countries. For you, is there a sense of pride in that, the fact that you've been able to work with a squad that goes on to perform on the greatest stage?
Absolutely. So as a club, we are very proud. We are very proud when our players represent their countries on the biggest stage. We have Bad Verbrugge, we have Yasunari, Theo Gomez, Pascal Gross, Mats Wiefer. Unfortunately, we lost Jean-Paul Van Ecke during the World Cup. Jason Steele is part of the England squad. So that's just fantastic for us as the football club, seeing Ayari scoring, seeing the different players representing their countries and competing on the highest level. It's just something what makes us proud and really happy to see it.
There's been a lot of talk about the intensity of training at this World Cup. I think it's something that Thomas Tuchel has drilled into his England players, something that you're big into as well. Is there a story about Navy SEALs that you can share with us?
Yeah, so I'm not only here to visit the different games. I'm also here to again learn from other kind of sports, from other kind of facilities, companies, organization, and therefore one of my biggest goals or biggest wishes was always to join one time the Navy SEALs to see how they are working, to see this organization sticking together, and therefore I think it's another really high performance culture, and I'm really interested in high performance culture outside from football. The Navy SEALs, they operate under extreme pressure, make decisions in difficult moments, difficult situations. They build strong team culture. So there's an obvious lesson for me as a head coach regarding leadership, regarding resilience, and also regarding accountability. So I'm looking forward to join them as well.
You mentioned there about the team ethic, and I was listening to Carlo Ancelotti, who I know you spent some time with, as you said earlier, talk about the fact that it's not going to be the stars that win this World Cup, it's going to be the teams. But the stars have played a pretty big role so far, haven't they? Where do you stand on that?
I think every team needs these individual quality to win games. So in the end, 1 against 1 in 11 against 11 can make a difference. And the best players, they're the best 1 against 1 player. They can solve situations in 1 against 1 moments during the game and can score within a second. And therefore, you need these kind of players to decide games. You need these kind of players that win you the tournament. But these kind of players will never function if you have not a good foundation, if you have not a good structure, if you have not a good relationship, a good connection in between the squad. So therefore, and that's just for me quite impressive to see how the coaches set up their team, how they select their team. And it starts with Thomas Tuchel with England, how he selected his team. It continues also with Carlo Ancelotti, I spoke to. He took a lot care about who is fitting to who, which profile is fitting to which profile, where are the connections, do you have a clear structure in the team regarding leadership, do you have enough players regarding creativity, do you have enough team players? So these are for me the 3 categories. You really need to have a good fit, you need to have enough leaders, you need to have enough team players, and you need to have enough players who can decide a game with one creative moment. But the structure has to be well, the the dynamics in between the squad has to be well, and therefore the coaches, in my opinion, they take a lot of care about these kind of dynamics, and for me at the moment it really pays off. So let's see how it continues.
It's been an interesting start of the tournament for Jan-Paul van Hekke, obviously completing his move to Tottenham. Did you always see him as someone who could be a £50 million player and someone who could go and play regularly in, well, they hope to get back in the Champions League next season, Spurs?
Unfortunately, yes. So unfortunately, I saw in him the last 2 years a player who has the potential to become one of the best in the world in this position. But first of all, I'm really happy for JP. Opportunities like that, they don't come around often, and he definitely earned it. He earned it through performance, he earned it through mentality, he earned it through professionalism and also consistency in his season, especially in his last season. So when a player develops and attracts interest of the highest level, then that's just a reflection of the work being done at Brighton, and therefore we are not happy to miss now one of the best players we had. We're not happy that one great centre back left the club, but that's the way football is working, and we are really convinced, and I'm convinced that we will find the right solutions for that.
Finally, before we let you go, last question. You mentioned Thomas Tuchel, and you obviously appreciate what he's done in the game, and you respect him heavily. He has become the first German to manage England. Is that something that you could ever see yourself doing?
I'm really happy to be at Brighton at the moment. So let's see how Thomas is doing. I'm wishing him all the best. I'm wishing England all the best. The last 2 years, I really feel like I integrated into a new culture. I really feel that I'm part now of a great family. I'm part of a great football country, a football country that is so desperate to win the World Cup. So I wish him and the country all the best, and then we see what happens.
Okay, thank you very much. Hope you're still playing paddle. Speak to you soon.
Thanks a lot. See you, Sam and Alex. Bye.
Much appreciated.
Bye-bye.
See you
Thank
soon.
you.
Yeah.
Open these pages and the World Cup comes rushing back. The noise, the colour, the chaos, the glittering prize. Because the World Cup is never just football. It's obsession, identity, heartbreak. It's glorious failure, long-awaited redemption. Echoes of Italian summers that never really fade. From Brazil 1970 to USA 94. From heroes remembered to teams the world forgot. These are the stories that shaped the greatest tournament on earth. This summer, relive them with Pitch Publishing, the independent home of World Cup storytelling.
Fabian Herzler there, the Brighton head coach, a German voice talking about all things World Cup, and a German voice who will be very happy that the German side have already booked their place into the last 32 of this World Cup. It's the first time that they've got through to the knockout stages since 2014. I thought it was brilliant.
No, superb. The way he breaks it down tactically and the insight about spending a bit of time with Carlo Ancelotti. It was mesmerising stuff. You know, we were both just sat listening and drinking it all in. And I'm pleased for Fabian that he's enjoying this World Cup experience. And I'm pleased the way the season panned out for him at Brighton, because there was a time mid-season when I was having to go into bat for him on social media when Brighton fans weren't happy, and he ends up taking him into Europe. He's clearly a very clever young manager.
Are you fancy going to the Navy SEALs training session?
I might need it after this trip, honestly. After the steak dinner that I ate on, what day of the week is it now? That I ate on Saturday night. That was incredible stuff.
I love the fact that you don't even know what day it is or what time of day it is. And I would say it's because you've been travelling all over the country and you've been into 7 different time zones. But that's not the case. You've just been in one for 2.5 weeks, and you've just fully immersed yourself in the local scene. Let's just put it that way. Okay, let's talk about England against Ghana. Remember, Star Sports Bet is the place to back England at this tournament. They're our great sponsors on the Inside Channel, and they have best price England throughout the course of the tournament. So if you're backing the boys at the World Cup, then starsports.bet is the place to be. You have to be 18 to place a bet. And if you need advice on gambling, it's begambleaware.org. Here's the thing. this Ghana side changes from the one that scraped past Panama in the opener. Thomas Partey, after his visa issues and legal issues, is probably going to be back in the team, and that does just change the midfield slightly. He couldn't travel to Toronto, but it looks like he's going to be able to play in Boston. Against Panama, I think Ghana, probably without a couple of key players, Partey out, obviously could have left out the squad altogether because he was injured. Now, he comes back into the engine room. I think the problem here is that England, because Ghana won their game really late on, I think they're going to just set up to properly frustrate England.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be as open as the game against Croatia. I'm sure that Thomas Tuchel is prepared for that. They weren't great, were they, against Panama, but as you said, they scraped through without a couple of key players. I still expect England to win the game, but they might just have to be a little bit more patient than they were against Croatia. But they've got that in their locker, and I think you talk about the midfield battle, and actually I've written a piece about this recently. Elliot Anderson, I think he's going to be a huge player for England at this World Cup. Obviously, Declan Rice being taken off midway through the first half against Croatia still doesn't look fully fit to me, but Anderson was still running through brick walls deep into stoppage time. He won back possession more than any other England player. He was top of that stat in the Premier League at the end of the domestic season. So I think he's absolutely crucial to breaking down this Ghana side.
Yeah, he topped that stat in the Premier League by an absolute mile, by the way. He won back possession in the Premier League 96 times more than any other player in the division. Listen, last night we were in the bar, me, producer Ollie, Mark Pugac and Lee Dixon, just having a little chat about that midfield triangle and how it all sort of knits together. And we all sort of said, Declan Rice has been asked to do a slightly different job now. He's almost being asked to sort of be the man who sort of covers a little bit more ground and has to do sort of almost two jobs, linking between Elliot and Jude in a way. Because that role of tempo setter has fallen to Elliot Anderson, and he's been very good at it, so he deserves a lot of credit. I still don't think that blend is quite knitted together perfectly yet, but then again, they've only played together twice as a threesome, and I wonder whether or not that will come as the tournament goes on. Other players to be a little bit concerned about, Antoine Semenyo didn't have too many touches, especially in the first half against Panama, but certainly a little bit better in the second. He got 17 goals across the season for Bournemouth, and then Manchester City, who paid that hefty sum for him in January. Iñaki Williams, Nico Williams' brother. Nico plays for Spain, he plays for Ghana. And 34-year-old Jordan Ayew is still going. He's the captain of the team. He's almost as old as me, but he's very much still involved with Ghana, who've got they've got an interesting manager, of course, in Carlos Queiroz, who's an old friend of yours.
Yeah, looked in good shape, didn't he? Celebrating that win at the end of the game. He's clearly not been indulging in the local hospitality as I have. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned there, Semenyo's the key man, isn't he? But he can't do it all on his own. Not too worried by Ayew up front, to be honest. I don't see many goals in this Ghana team. Obviously, England defensively weren't perfect in the first half against Croatia, but this should be a game that they're keeping a clean sheet in, I think.
Yeah, but the warning is on the counter, and this is the issue for England, right? That when they looked vulnerable at any time, it has been in those quick transitions, so they've got to be careful of that. But also, it's not being impatient. Break them down eventually. Don't go hell for leather and feel like, get frustrated if you haven't done it in the first 10 minutes, because it's going to take time. They're going to set up with a back five. They're going to frustrate you. If you think that in the first half of that game against Panama, Panama had 62% possession. I mean, come on. I mean, if that doesn't tell you what Ghana are going to do, I don't know what does. They didn't have a shot on target in the first half. It took them to the last kick of the game to win it. They are going to block up the midfield, make sure they've got a bank of 5 and 4. They're not going to give you any space. England can't afford to get frustrated. Move the ball quickly, get down the wide areas and try and move them around. If they can get in front of England, they'll be fine, but don't get frustrated if they don't. Okay, what's your score prediction?
I'm torn between 2 and 3-0, but I'm going to go a bit more conservative and go 2-0 England.
Okay. I went 2-0 England last time, and I suppose I sort of won that because you said 1-0, and they did win by 2 goals. So
you're claiming that in the tipping competition as well?
I'm claiming that. I think that England will win 1-0. I think it's going to be quite a different game to the one we saw against Croatia. I'm hoping for a much more open contest, but I don't think we'll get one. Ghana know that a point will see them through to the knockout stages. They won't want to get heavily beaten because we also know that 3 points might be enough for them to get through if they manage to keep the score down. So I think they're just going to try their hardest to do that, and England will wait for the final game against Panama to really go hell for leather when they'll make a lot of changes, and hopefully they'll already be through to the round of 32 after a tight but interesting victory over Ghana. So 1-0 England for me. Right, talking of tipping competition, Star Sports Bet have been running this tipping competition between me and Crook over the course of this wonderful tournament. And I'm delighted to say that I am so far in front. I am like a dot on the horizon to Crook. Now, actually, my bet, which was Netherlands over 2.5 goal, Isaac and Somerville to have a shot on target, was voided yesterday because Somerville didn't start. And actually, that denied me the chance to take an even further lead because even though Somerville didn't start, he came off the bench. As you know, listen, I knew he'd play at some point. He had a shot on target. So did Isaac. There was over 2.5 goals. So I would have been so far ahead of you that you would have had to have given up. So you've been very, very lucky that they voided that bet yesterday. You were all cooing yesterday lunchtime when you found out that the bet was going to be voided because Somerville didn't start, and you thought that that was giving me an advantage. But actually, it's you who's benefited from it because your tipping has been absolutely guff. What did you say was going to happen? The tap-in treble? The tap-in treble? Did it come in?
Well, I did call it that, but you know it's not going to be your tournament when a goalkeeper produces 15 saves in a single game and it ends up 0-0 because that was the game that's let me down. So must do better. The irony is, individually, I'm doing okay from this tournament, but the tips I'm putting up on this podcast are not.
We don't
really
know
reflective of that.
We only listen to what you do here. We're not in your. You just can't just make it up and say I'm doing well elsewhere. Rubbish. Just stick to what you're putting out in the public domain, mate. The fact is you just need to be humble. Just be humble. Just say I've messed up.
Well, I'm hoping that there's probably about 650 games still to be played. I've got time to turn it around. But yeah, I'm getting a little bit desperate with my selection today.
All right, okay. I'm going to go England to win under 2.5 goals and Harry Kane to have a shot on target. That's my little bet builder for the England game. That's my tip for this time. What's yours?
Well, I should really be putting up England to win to 0 because I think we're both in agreement about that. But I've gone for the two big boys to turn up. Messi in the game that I'm going to against Austria to score and Kylian Mbappe to score as well. I've double it up. The odds, I'm sure, are quite slender, but hopefully it will get me some points on the board.
Boy, do you need some. That is for sure. That's your lot. Thank you very much from Brooklyn. It's been a lovely, beautiful morning here. It's very early in the morning here, but as you can see, the skyline is great. I've been walking around. Listen, I've only been here for a couple of hours, and I've been walking around last night just sampling the atmosphere in Brooklyn. And there's a Adidas watch party area away to our left-hand side, down in Dumbo. Absolutely brilliant, under the Brooklyn Bridge. I don't know if you can you see the Brooklyn Bridge from where you can't, can you? Come on, I'll give you. Come on, let me give you a little treat here. Look, Ollie, come over here. Look, Ollie's going to come pick the camera up. Look, Ollie, take them around. Show them the skyline. Look at this. That's it. Fantastic. That's the Brooklyn Bridge. Look.
Wow.
What a fantastic scenery it is here. And on a beautiful day like this, New York's skyline looks absolutely outstanding, doesn't it? That's the view over the Hudson. Beautiful onto the Manhattan skyline. You can see all of downtown Manhattan, the Freedom Tower, One World Trade Center in the background. You're going down to Wall Street now towards the end. All the river cruises last night were full of people having a fantastic time. Yeah, it's a wonderful city at the best of times, but in the sunshine, it's even better. So I'm delighted you got to see that. Right, that's it from us. We're back on Wednesday when we will be, I think, where are we going to be? Houston? Yeah, Ollie's giving me a nod. Yeah, we're going to be in Houston. We'll be reacting to England against Ghana. We're going to Portugal, Uzbekistan next, and we'll have a look at what's coming up as well. Remember, if you've enjoyed the podcast, subscribe, follow, leave us a review. It's two mates across America giving you access that you don't get anywhere else. We're lucky enough to have it. We're sharing it with you. Crook, what's next on your agenda?
Off to meet some crazy Argentinian fans today, then off to Argentina's game in Dallas tomorrow, and then we fly to New York, where we're supposed to be for the rest of the tournament, but I'm trying to navigate a couple of little trips.
Okay, so later next week,